Hello again, welcome to session 399 DevLog 2, where I don't have a script and I'm going to go through this off the top of my head, so you have to excuse me for that format. And also the reflection on the glasses here. We're just going to work with what we got. So what I want to start off is, well, I have two things in mind. Update on from the last video regarding the FileSync, and then I was thinking of going through the ReadMe that I wrote the other day, and that's it. And then in between, we'll have as much rambling, off topic, or whatever talk, whatever happens. So to start off, I just want to make an update. In the last video, I was trying to describe the three different versions I have of the FileSync. The first version was I was having trouble remembering, but basically, in the first version of the file sync process that I had between the client and the server, I would have a network call from the server that would grab a list of all the names of the files, and then I would have another network call, individual network calls for each file, grabbing each file's checksum individually. So that was the slow part of where in version 2, I got rid of individual network calls unless there's a network call required for uploading or downloading. But from there, it would be individual network calls from files still. So version 2, I introduced a manifest, so I don't have to individually network call each file to check the checksum. I just do one network call from the server to get every file checksum. And then I still download individually each network call for file, or upload individually for file in version 2. And version 3, which I'm currently working on, which I'm hoping to follow up on. So in the last video, I ended up with batch downloading stats JSON files, getting it working. And the trouble is sometimes an artist folder has an optional folder, and I'm keeping it in this format: the tuning folder, artist folder, optional folder, or list of songs directory. If there's optional folder, go a folder deeper to place the song stats folder in. And it worked, other than the optional folder providing trickery, but it works. And then I just want to come back on this session because in the last portion, what I did was, in the last video I deleted the server content, and then I uploaded to the server every single file. And in this video, I'm gonna delete some stuff from the client, and I'm gonna compare last version, because I made a change since then, and since the last video I made another update that I'm gonna show off here. So let me just show that the download Guitar Pro. So there's two different folders I have differently right now. This is the JSON folder, and this is the Guitar Pro folder. See, manifest GP5, and this is like the same formatting of this folder structure: tuning folder, artist folder, and optional folder or songs. But this is all the Guitar Pro files. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to delete my folder right here. I'm going to delete the Allman Brothers Band, because that's a variety of one folder with optional folder and one folder just by itself. So I deleted the Guitar Pro files, and I'm going to demo the previous version of the oops, hold on, right here. So the previous versions sync, and you're going to notice downloading, and that's taking so long, downloading, because it's individually doing a network call to download each Guitar Pro file. Downloading. See how long it takes just to download those few? Downloading. I mean, it's still fast, don't get me wrong, but just keep in mind how long it takes in this current version. Then I'm going to do a pull, GitHub pull of an updated version. Gonna restart the program once it's done downloading. See, it's not too bad, but it could be sped up. So what I want to demonstrate, well, let's just wait for it to download. Hopefully that's it. Yeah, Guitar Pro is done, going through the JSONs and stats. Okay, now it's done. Let's go back to the Guitar Pro 5 files. And you can see it re-downloaded them in the correct directories and everything. My folder and the Allman Brothers Band. Okay, so now I'm going to restart the program because I just did a git pull, download more updates. And now I'm going to delete everything from the Guitar Pro 5 folder. And we're going to compare the last time, how long it took to download a couple of files, to this time, how long it takes to download every file. So I'm going to hit the sync button now. See, there's nothing here. Sync. See how quick it is? Downloading, downloading, downloading. Because now it's doing bulk downloads. It's already done. See, now it's going to the JSON and the stats. Once that's okay, see, now I go back to the folders and they're already here. Everything that I just downloaded was so quickly downloaded. That's batch downloading. And I could even demo that. Let's delete every single thing. Every Guitar Pro 5 file and every JSON file in the two directories. Move the trash. All right, and let's do something a little different. I'm going to try to keep the windows open. Just crop them so that hopefully it shows the files, the folders generating content, and at the same time as the sync folder shows it on the program. So I got the folders open on the left and right. I deleted every client file. I have batch downloading enabled, batch checksum processing, and then batch downloading enabled. It's sync, and then let's see what happens. So it downloads it in the zip once it's done. See, there we go. Guitar Pro 5 is already done. And there's some of it. There we go. And then it's downloading the stats now. If I go into one of these folders, you're going to see the song stats populate once all the stats are done. It's the very last step. So what it's actually doing is putting everything in the zip file. Then once it's like right there right now, it's extracting everything to the correct folder. And this one has a lot to go through, a lot of subfolders, a lot of note logs. So it takes a couple seconds or whatever. And there we go. Song stats. Okay, cool. That was a nice and quick demo of that. I'm going to stop the video and then set up for the README. Okay, back. I'm going big head mode. So I have the README on the right of my face here. And then this is what I wrote the other week, just on a whim, going through everything. I actually do have to add another window. I don't feel like restarting the recording though. Just have to add a video for the song creator because this song creator has a lot of README content that I'm going to go over. A lot of variables, hundreds of variables. And they're all from the user's perspective, trying to get away from hard coding values. So let me just add this song creator window display on my OBS right here. Song creator, there we go. I have to balance out the window size, but we'll get there. Let me just come back to that. And I'm sharing the PyCharm terminal or PyCharm window, which I have to be careful. But okay then, here we go. So this is my first version of a README, trying to go through everything that a user has to do when running this program. So let's start off. SongCreatorVision.com, that's the server host that the client connects to for this. You need to log in to the website when you run the program so it knows where to upload and download from each user having their own directory on the server space. Private, PyCharm, Python, PyGuitar Pro, Pygame. SongCreatorVision.com. Account is required to log in for usage with SongCreator and SongVisualizer. There's an env file So the credentials are not hard-coded. There's a env file to be created in the root directory of the project that could be subject to change, where to pull from. Of course, getting this away from having to use a PyCharm IDE to use, perhaps with a .exe file instead. Different variables right now, database URI. This is for the database for the user stuff, more of a back end to figure out how to get this secretive outside the user. This is username for the website, SongCreatorVision.com. This password for the website. Secret token is used for the request sent to the server. It has to be something like a password that I set from the server side that the client sends, so I don't to filter out any possible hoax requests that someone might try to send outside externally, manipulating anything, trying to get it only so the program does these requests. SongVisualizer. Okay. SongVisualizer user settings. So there's 3 paths. I guess I forgot to indent this, or let me go back to fix this indentation. There we go. Folder paths visualizes. This is the folder that the SongVisualizer will look for songs in. It's important to note that the folder structure that's required for the SongVisualizer to work. Oh, I guess I do want that indented. The folder structure is as follows. First, you have a tuning folder such as E standard, drop C, open G, E flat, drop D. Then from there, you have an artist folder inside the tuning folder required in that format. And from there, the artist folder can have an optional folder such as an album name. If there is no optional folder, then the artist folder has the Guitar Pro 5 files, or both. You could have Guitar Pro 5 files in the artist folder and the optional folder, or without optional folder and just in the artist folder. Okay, then there's folder path generate. This is a folder that the song creator will place its generated files. The folder name is as follows. Guitar tuning 1, 2, 3, seeing as 3 arrangements are generated. From there, the folder name is for the scale, and the name of the scale that was used to generate the song, and then the song name. I think there's one more path that I forgot to put. But let's just go with what I wrote. Actually, it's down here. Anyways, there's more settings. Volume threshold, that's in the guitar input settings. You can't see that guitar input settings screen unless you have your guitar actually plugged in, so I'm not going to try that right now. I don't have my guitar plugged in. But the volume threshold is the minimum volume that's required for detecting the guitar. Anything less than that, it won't be detected. And it's important to note, I didn't put in the README yet, it's important to note that the signal being sent should be a clean signal without any distortion or overdrive, just to make the whole accuracy detection much easier. That's one thing I noticed. For the longest time, I had my signal from my interface outputting with the dirty signal into my laptop for the guitar input for the SongVisualizer. And I think that made things hard to detect. So I had to do some work to get my interface to output the line out to be a clean signal, so that way my SongVisualizer guitar input could be a cleaner accuracy. And I think it helps. I think it helps having a clean signal, especially because there's no 60 cycle hum. That 60-66 frequency can be thrown off as a note or chord expected frequency. And without the overdrive and distortion pushing the volume up, you get less of that background noise. Okay, so next up, let's go to the settings screen in SongVisualizer, side by side, the best I could here anyways. So this is the settings screen. I'm trying to have both open. So first up we have, try to make this window a little bit bigger to read the text for the README. Let's see. Zoom in a little bit. Okay. So volume threshold actually is on the guitar input screen, but default song path, that's actually, so what this is going off now is there's a user settings JSON file, and these are the things that are saved inside of it. All these things that I'm reading off. The volume threshold just happens to be on the guitar input screen right here. Guitar input tuning screen. Okay, next up, default song path. Right when you open the program, the first song that will be open is this default song path. That is something that you could change inside of the settings screen. You can see I have the settings screen open on the left here. You see this check mark is default song. And right here in the README, I try to say the setting can be adjusted in the settings screens by first opening with the default song. Oh, sorry, let me just re-describe that. So this song currently is default, and there's a subtext below the check mark that says cannot unset default song once saved. You can't uncheck the fact that this song is default. You have to actually define another one in its place. So you just open any other song. Here, let me do that. Open the program. So Hope is currently default, but let's change it to Daylight Dies. Go to settings. Now default song is true for this song, and we go back to settings, and I can't uncheck it. So let's say I do want Hope Is as the default song after all. I have to go back into the settings of this song, Hope Is, and then set it back to default. So now I open the program, this song is default selected. Okay, next up, show stats after JSON. Show stats JSON after stop. This is a Boolean that determines if the song visualizer will show the stats JSON file after the song has been stopped. The setting can be adjusted in the settings screen. However, this requires 30% more or more accuracy if it's enabled. That's because I'm not going to generate JSON files for false playthroughs, and because this is talking storage space. Even if you hit only 30% of notes, it's going to save 100% of the song note information, every measure, every string, every fret. So it does take up storage in this version. Visualize note effects. This is just a toggle boolean for enabling, disabling the arrows for the slides, bends, hammer-ons, pull-offs, as well as the palm mute note effect, the hammer-on pull-off arrows. That should be arrows, not circles. Oh man. Darn keyboard. Well, I guess I can't type right now. Next up, I even added staccato settings recently, but this was because for the longest time I couldn't figure out how to get note effects in. So like I know how to define a note effect, like okay, this string and this fret, this note index on this measure. I knew how to say, okay, it's a bend, it's a slide, it's a hammer-on, pull-off, staccato. But I didn't know how to like visualize it on the screen for the user while playing. Until recently, got that implemented where the slide is just an arrow pointing to the other, the direction left or right. The receiver doesn't receive an arrow at this point, compared to the hammer-on pull-off is an arrow down. The receiver and the giver have both arrows on there. And then the harmonic has like a glittery note effect. The palm mute has X note effects. This setting is just to turn off all the note effects just for debugging, I guess. Next setting, visualizing this, look this many seconds away. This is relation to the current song time. When starting the song, a song timer starts, and then there's an active search for current song time plus look this many seconds away in relation to note start times. So let's say the current song time is 8 seconds and we look 2 seconds away. It looks for every note in between the 8 to 10 second range, because a note is expected to start at the top of the screen 2 seconds before it's expected to be started. but this setting changes that. Do you want the note to display at the top of the screen when the note is supposed to start 1 second away to go 1 second duration on the screen? That's what this variable is for. But when you change that, there's two other variables that you could consider as well. the y vector, that the y in this in Pygame, the y is, I think it's 0 is at the top, I think, and then whatever higher numbers at the bottom. The reason why I say I think because OpenGL is reversed. You got to flip them sometimes between the software or the GPU to an extent. But other than that, there's another variable. It's called velocity scale. So this is how, like right now, it's easier to scale the velocity dynamically through the user setting than it is to set a preset variable, because it's not as easy as to say, okay, make this calculation. It has to move this distance between this time span with this velocity at this position in this duration. It's not as easy to come up with a magical velocity that fits. I did happen to find a magic velocity number that fits when I have 2 seconds look away, starting notes at y vector 10 with the velocity scale. I think it's 420 or 400 or 450. I forget the exact number offhand without looking it up. But it's very specific. And then I have the code that says for the notes, if it's currently the song time, if the song time is currently the note time, then the bass note was going to be stuck on the finish line while the sustain can move below. That's one way you could tell if the note velocity, the look many seconds away, and the start vector are all in sync, is the bass note close to the finish line by the time the finish line has the bass note inside of it. The bass note will teleport to the finish line. It basically does teleport. So the goal is to get it as close as possible so the teleportation seems seamless. So like, oh, it's just another note movement. Because, every frame, it has velocity, and the frame delta time is considered dynamic, and it's difficult. So we go to the settings screen, and we can see on the left here, there's 3 different sliders. Look this many seconds away to start note y vector 10, velocity scale 1. And what I did in this, it's kind of neat. Let's say you play around with it. I'm not going to demo it right now. I demoed it in a session before. But let's say you find a sweet spot. You could actually save it in the JSON, like right here. Otherwise, it's not going to save, and it'll just be local. Otherwise, if you do save it, and you're like, oh crap, I want the default values, I don't like this after all, you just do the reset, and it resets it to the values that I know are good. 2, 10, 1. Okay, so let's go to the next setting. So that was actually 3 settings in one. Look, this many seconds. Okay, anyways, visualize change tuning every song select. So this is a Boolean that determines if the song visualizer will change the tuning based on the song selected. For example, if we open the song in drop C folder, then the song visualizer will change the tuning to drop C. The setting can be adjusted in the settings screen. Good for if you want to keep our guitar in E flat and play E standard songs without retuning. Because sometimes I do like to play E flat and E standard and E standard and E flat, because to me, half step difference, yeah, you could hear it, but at the same time, to me, I just like playing them in either or tuning. And that setting is in the settings menu. I'm open right here. It says change tuning every song select. It's check it on or check it off. So right now we're on drop C and I have it toggled on. So we're going to go to E standard and we're going to go to Allman Brothers Band, and now it's E standard. But then let's toggle that tuning off, change tuning every song select false. So let's go to drop C and I'm still E standard. And so that setting is specifically for the guitar input. You do want the guitar input toggled to your tuning that you're setting. That's why the tuner's there, because it's going to do the note detection, and you're going to want accurate stats for the dynamic tempo. So yes, so next setting, let's see what the next setting is. Folder path JSON input output. This is a directory where all JSON files will be saved to. These JSON files cover both input output. For input, we can adjust the frequencies for the guitar chords and their frequencies. Currently, single notes are not in the JSON, only the chords are. This folder also covers song info JSONs. Used it base default tempo JSON. Just as a different type of files. There's song info JSONs, that times played, last played. Base default tempo JSON. Every time you open the guitar profile, it saves the base tempo from the song itself, so you can make profile adjustments or dynamic tempo adjustments that are in the JSON file, not affecting the guitar profile file itself. Then profile tempo JSONs configure 5 different configurations on the tempo in a JSON format without adjusting the guitar profile file itself. Also, there is note log JSONs for each playthrough with a real guitar. Are you interested in your hit and miss accuracy and the timing of each measure and note? Dynamic tempo calculation reference these note logs and adjust the play speed based on your playthroughs. Okay, next up. This one is very new. Visualize sustained note length scale. I might as well demo this one. Modified in settings menu. Scales the length of the sustained heights visual representation compared to note lengths. One is default, 0.5 is half length in size. Default one length is from one note to next, unless the note effect is a palm mute or staccato, then it's less length. I added this in because let's reference Hope Is. And let's set the, hold on, let me go back to OBS so you can see the Guitar Pro 5 or the Song Visualizer. So we go back to, let's go to settings, change tuning. Let me go back to make it drop C. And then we're sustained length scale 1. Look, so these are not palm mutes right now. So look at the length of the sustain is one from the next. Look at the sustain right here. Oh, I closed it. Dang it. Hold on. Let me try that again. Pause it. Okay, watch it. See how the sustain length is like ending right where the next note is beginning? That throws me off, right? And especially looking at the next ones. Like, there's no way you could hold a sustain that close in most cases. Like, maybe in this one you can because you could easily do an open note. But for the most part, to me, it's a little distracting to have such a strong, lengthy sustain. So what the setting is, let's put it down to 50%. It just shortens the sustain length. And that doesn't mean I'm not going to play it less. My playing of the sustain is my preference, so I could just read it. It's easier to sight read it when the sustains are shorter, I think, perhaps in longer or faster songs anyways. But next up, let's go to the ReadMe again. PyCharm ReadMe. Okay. Next setting. Okay, I think we're getting into the next, oh no, not SongCreator yet, still SongVisualizer. Different screens. Okay, so the main screen, the main screen, this is initially loads when opening the program. Upon opening, a default song is selected based on the default song path setting. If no song is currently being played, then all buttons for navigation will be displayed. If song is currently being played, then only the stop and pause buttons are currently selected, and the arrangement button will be displayed. So like only 3 buttons. If I'm playing lead, the lead button will be displayed, and then the stop button will be displayed, and the pause button will be displayed. But if I hit the pause button, then only the play button will be displayed, or something like that. And I can't stop the song while it's paused at the play, then stop it. Okay, then I have the Open Guitar Pro 5 screen. This screen is used to open Guitar Pro 5 files. Search is supported. Right-clicking will navigate back a folder. Mouse highlighting over selection will turn the text from white to green. The screen should be able to display information as to how many times a tuning artist song has been played. There's also a scroll bar I can scroll. Last played, average play time. There's also a sort button to change the view of the Guitar Pro 5 files. There's a scroll bar. I already said that thing. Scroll bar. Let me read this over, this part. Mouse highlighting. Oh no, this part. The screen should also display information as to how many times a tuning artist's song has been played. Last time played, average play time. There's also a sort button to change the view of the Guitar Pro 5 files. There's a scroll bar if there's too many selections to display. Upon opening Guitar Pro 5 file, the SongVisualizer will load the Guitar Pro 5 file and display the song info once I hit the start button. Or I could change the tempo in the settings, or the tempo screen. The song info includes the song name, song length. While the song is playing, the current song time will display. Changing song will change the tuning of the song if that setting is enabled. There's also a sync button on this screen to synchronize Guitar Pro 5 files of JSON and JSON files with the server. There's an open MP3 button. Must have exported Guitar Pro MP3 from the Guitar Pro itself from prior to opening. The button will have to open File Explorer to select the MP3 to play. Once selected, the audio file will play at the exact timing the first note expected to be played. Then there's other buttons: lead, alt lead, rhythm, bass, piano, drum buttons. These buttons will change the currently selected arrangement to play. If the arrangement is not supported, then the button will be disabled. I mean, if the song does not have that arrangement, then it won't be shown in that button. If the arrangement is supported, then this button will be enabled. If the arrangement is currently selected, then the button would be highlighted in green. Then there's a settings screen. The screen shows a selection of options which will save and load from a user settings JSON file, such as, there's even more settings I didn't go over earlier. I should probably move these other variables into the settings screens that I have above, but it's okay. Visualizer note effects. Reference to visualize note effects settings above, so you can move it there. Its default setting, we already went through that. Show stats after JSON, we already went through that. Actually, I skipped this one. 6 measure sync intro. This setting artificially inflates the first 6 measures of each arrangement and places notes in the first 6 measures to sync the arrangements together. The idea is, and aim for this setting is particularly when for recording multi-track arrangements and wanting more confidence in when to mix the recording of each track. The idea is that if there's an intro sync where each arrangement plays notes at the same time, then it's easier to align the 3 audio files together to form one song. Basically just for me when I'm multi-tracking a song, the idea is, yeah, there's 3 arrangements being played, the same notes at the same time, and I could just align the tracks easier for multi-tracking. I mean, I could demo that, but it's not really exciting. Watch. Let's go to the program and let's do the 6 measure sync on, and then let's turn it off. So look at the song length, 436, turn it off. Without it, 421. With it, 436. See, it inflates it. And you remember the intro note before was 12 open chord, or 12th fret chord. Now it's 5 5 5 open, 5 5 5 open, and then it'll go to the fret 12 as normal. Back to the intro of the song. This is the true intro right here. It just inflated the intro when I put that setting on. Now I turn it off and it's back to normal. Like I said, that's just for me when I'm recording. If I want to make an album or whatever, record a song, whatever, multi-track. It just helps for the mixing process, in theory. Let's go to the next guitar input screen. Now I don't have my guitar actually plugged in, so I can't access the tuner and chord detect screen. It'll kick me right out. It requires the guitar to be plugged in. I'm not going to demo it right now. Let's go back to the README though. Guitar input screen. It says the screen has several options. Minigame to play the string and the fret shown. It'll show a random string and fret, and you just play it with the guitar. It says detected or missed. It's a fun little short, simple brain dead mini game. A generate chord frequency screen to generate the frequency mapping JSON files for each tuning, so that when we play the guitar, the songs will have each note defined with a frequency to look at for determine if it's a hit or miss. So that looks at the guitar input JSON file for a list of definitions for the strings and the frets and the frequencies, and then calculates the output JSON files when you click that button. So that lets you change some of the chord frequencies if you're getting a miss on certain chords. Like, oh, the frequency's wrong, let me adjust it. Okay, so chord detect screen is to pull the chords from the song and display them. Okay, and their expected frequency, and whether it lets me play it and sees if it detects it or not. So I did a session or two demonstrating that, where you go to the chord detect screen and it pulls the chords from the song, it shows the frequency, and I try to play it and it says hit or miss. Did I detect a frequency or not? And in some cases it didn't detect a frequency, but it did display the frequency I was playing, so I could update the chord value to that frequency, and I come back to that screen. Then it detects it with the updated frequency value. More of a debugging screen. And I got to get it so that the screen will display the chords that are not currently mapped in the JSON file that need to be mapped. And there's still some songs for drop C that I gotta adjust some of the chord frequency values. I just haven't got there. I know it's decreasing my value, my hit accuracy, but it's just so much work to do everything in this project. There's so many layers. I'll get there. I'll define it eventually. Stat screen. The stat screen relies on the currently selected song from the main menu, as well as the currently selected arrangement, lead, rhythm, all lead. It will display the 5 most recent stats files for the selected arrangement of the song, or of the 5 displayed, each are clickable to look at into the stats. And when you click on one, it'll compare the stats of the one you selected compared to 2 previous ones before it, and it'll say how well you improved or got worse. And then there's also a table button that displays the content of the JSON, but this screen isn't really good because who goes into SongVisualizer or Pygame project to read a JSON raw value? I'm trying to think of a way to make the visualization better, easier to read as from a user's perspective. Next up, we're going to the song creator finally. And there's a whole bunch of stuff to go over. So song creator, see if I could have it open at the same time to an extent. It's going to be hard to juggle all this. Let's see, shrink the size a little bit. This will have to work. Okay, so file, first up. Over on the Files tab. Okay, first up we have commonality. Changes the type of scales and scale drop-down menu. There's common, rare, exotic. The key changes the key of the scale. The scale, changes the scale of the song, But the scales that are displayed are dependent on the commonality option. One thing that's annoying about Mac is it's not easy to get the window open. To right-click the tab, and there we go. So let me just change the commonality. Commonality to common. That changes the scale options. And let me just open up the README again. Okay, so commonality key scale, then you got the add scale button. Oh, sorry, save the directory. This just changes your local file path for where do you want to save the song. Self-explanatory. For me, it's like, I think I have to fix that path. I don't know if that's there we go. SongCreator GP. That's not the point. That's saved in the user settings JSON, I think, as well. But up next is generate subfolder. That just says generate the directory if it doesn't exist. Subdirectories. I forget what happens if you have it off. If it errors or not, I forget. To be honest, I've always had it on. I have to try it sometime, and not right now. Then we have open file. This is a checkbox that says basically, do you want to open Guitar Pro when you generate it? Or do you just want to generate it? Either way, it sends it to SongVisualizer. This is for Guitar Pro. If you want Guitar Pro to open the file right when you generate it. So SongCreator creates Guitar Pro 5 files if you haven't put that together yet. Or I know the README hasn't described that. I'm just going over every variable. Tempo lets you set the tempo of the song. Song title pre-filled in by the key scale. If two key scales are selected or just one, as well as the date and time, so file name is unique upon every generation. Well, the file name is actually unique upon every generation. The song title is just key and scale, or keys and scales, because if you do the add scale button, I think I skipped this. Add scales, if you want a song with 2 scales, you click the add scale and it adds 1 scale, and then you just select the other scale. And then we go to number of measures. Number of measures of the song, self-explanatory. Change scale. If 2 scales are selected, how often will it toggle between one and another? So I could have 89 measures, and they'll change the scale every 40 measures, every 42, 40 measures, however many. And next button is randomize all. This randomizes all the settings for the songs on each different screen, not just the current one. Just like when you open the program, it opens random settings. Next up, we have rhythm, alt, lead tunings. Ability to adjust the tuning for each arrangement individually. This also changes the folder name. So right now the folder name will be E standard, E standard, E standard. Okay, up next we have save load. This one's very important to me. Save load settings for the song. This is useful if you want to generate a song with the same settings but with a different scale. Just save the settings, change the scale, load the settings. Also great if you generate a good song and want to store the settings for later. Perhaps adjust one setting and keep tweaking until the song you found is perfect. So yeah, you're able to save every setting on this program. If you find a good combination, you save the file locally, and then you can load it later to bring back all the settings. It's great. Clear scales, if you have 2 scales that are selected and you want to clear it just to have one. So right now I'll hit add. Now I have F sharp and D sharp, and F sharp and D, and I clear it, and now it's just back to D. So when I hit add scale, adds currently selected one, and then it randomizes it for the next one. You choose whatever. So first one D pentatonic net neutral. Let's say I want a C sharp dominant 7th, and then that's how it goes. The first one's set, and now the second one's there. But let's say, oh, never mind, I just want 1 scale. It'll remove the first one that I added before, so now I have just 1 scale. Okay, next tab. Well, okay, actually not yet. We actually have liftoff, and this one's interesting. This one is, do you want a mass amount of songs with 1 button? This will generate X amount of songs, currently hard-coded how many. One time I did 1 million. Or different settings, because you could have so many different combinations, 1 or 2 scales. And then it'll generate a folder for each, and I'll check if this folder doesn't exist yet. Blah, blah, blah. Each one's randomized settings. Currently the number of songs hard-coded. This is also forces off the open file checkbox when ran without adjusting the setting. Generates a song when the specific settings applied, so that's the key button. And next up, we have the lead tab. So we have strings 1 through 6. That's the number of strings to use for the song. You can check off which ones you want or don't want. Frets 0 to 20, same logic. Lengths sets the lengths of the song in seconds, of course. Set the length of the song in seconds. Don't know what that means actually. In relation to this time signature. Oh, wait. So, yeah, these lengths, in relation to the time signature, we're going to need exact amount of the time signature to fill the measure. Self-explanatory. It just says what each one is. 4 is a whole note, 3 dotted half note, 2 half note, 1.5 quarter note, blah, blah, blah. And then the magical part. The priorities for each note length. This is done by randomization. The higher the number, the more likely the note will be generated. Well, in terms of how the note lengths are chosen, which has the highest priority, along with what can fit in the current measure, given if you already placed 8 notes and you only have so much to meet the time signature, what could fit? It's a juggle. If you can't fit something, perhaps you could rest to an extent. So there's 3 fields of numbers to fill in for the priority for the preferences. There's min, max, and reduce by. The initial priority for the note length will be a random number between the min and the max. From there, if the note length happens to be chosen, then the priority will be reduced by the reduce by. Depending on which setting to be reset, there's another setting to discuss later. When a certain note length priority is 0, or when all the note length priorities reach 0, then the priority would be reset to random number between the min and the max. Okay, so there's another button called Copy Alt Lead, which when you click it, it'll copy the priorities from the Alt Lead arrangement. Okay, next tab is the rhythm. Same settings as lead except for the following. Does not allow note length below 8 notes to be selected. See, 0.5 is 8 notes, whereas lead goes down to 0.3, 0.2, dotted 16th and 16th. I don't want that fast for the rhythm. Let's see. Additional option compared to lead and alt lead is patterns. So right here. Right now it's 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12 are selected. Chooses between 2 increments from 2 to 24. Rhythm is written to play by pattern. For example, if we choose 2, then the rhythm will play 2 chord beats of the same chord, then we'll decide the next pattern after 2. Tries to be unique. And play that pattern for amount of times for the next chord beats, and so on until the song is finished. Play X pattern for 1 chord, then pattern changes, and the next chord changes with the pattern. So 2 chords here, 4 chords there, 6 chords there, back to 2, then 4, or randomized to 10. Plays a chord number of times. That's just one pattern. There's another pattern we'll get to later when you have new pattern, and you have 6-5 open, 5-5 open, or at least 6-5. It'll add that on top of the other pattern. It'll do 2 open chords, like a drop C, then I'll do the other chord. Anyways, alt lead. Let's go to the next one. Alt lead is the same as lead, with a copy lead button as well as to copy the priorities from the lead. But they're the same already because I already had the lead copy to alt lead, so I can't have the alt lead copy the lead because they're the same. Next up, we have the note tab screen. Okay, first variable, move focus frets every. Well, the songs are written to focus on 4 frets at a time, so there's another setting to determine the logic for transitioning either up and down the fretboard. This specific settings require X number of notes to be played before considering the option of changing the focus frets. So the songs, when generated, focus on 4 frets at a time, and it moves away from those 4 frets every X number of notes right here. You hit 6 notes, the focus frets changes, but the next setting right here, require note length to move, is used in combination with move focus frets every. The setting will require X note lengths for the focus frets to move. For example, if we set the move focus frets to every 4 and require note lengths to move to be 4, then if we play 8 notes of less than 4 value, then the frets won't move. We require X notes to play before considering the lookout of the desired note length to move the frets. So sometimes I've seen that happen. I was so confused, like, why isn't it moving up? It says it should move every X notes, but it's like, oh, because it looks for a whole note, and then you have the whole note priority so low that a whole note's never given, so the frets never move. So that's one thing to consider. I don't currently have a variable that says force move after every note. I don't have that yet. All right, I'm trying to wrap up this video to not be too long. Let's go through the next ones. Okay, the next setting, max 16th in a measure. So should be self-explanatory. This is a setting to determine the max amount of 16th notes in a measure. This is to prevent the song from being too fast and difficult to play, although dynamic tempo is a further step safeguard for this. Next setting is max 16th in a row. This is a setting to determine the max amount of 16ths in a row. This is to prevent the song from being too fast and difficult to play. Max 8th in a measure. This setting is to determine the maximum amount of 8th notes in a measure. This is to prevent the song from being too fast and difficult to play. Dynamic tempo is a further safeguard for this. Max 8th notes in a row. This is a setting to determine the maximum amount of 8th notes in a row. This is to prevent the song from being too fast and difficult to play. Staccato max chance. This is a setting to determine the maximum chance of a staccato being played. Ghost note max chance. This is a setting to determine the maximum chance of a ghost note being played. I think it requires the same note to be played on top of this chance, because a ghost note is just an extension of the previous, right? All right, palm mute max chance. This is a setting to determine the maximum chance of palm mute being played. Yeah, it could be randomized by chance. Who knows if it makes sense. Tuplet max chance. This is a setting to determine the maximum amount of a tuplet being played. Tuplets are hard to determine songwriting, but hey, there we go. Move calculated. This is in relation to moving focus frets. This option looks at the current fret and the min and the max allowed frets to determine where at on the fretboard the current notes are. It will try to move the opposite side of where it's currently at. If it's currently focused on the lower portion of the fretboard, it'll more than likely move upwards to the higher portion of the fretboard, vice versa. Now, it'll move incrementally, not suddenly teleport from one section to the other. It'll just move 1, 2, 3, 4 frets up to 5, 6, 7, 8. And then from there, the next you have to play X amount of notes with X note length to move again, but it won't just magically move upward again. There's a chance it would move downward. It's not guaranteed to move upward, but I think it's just higher chance of it. It's been a while since I wrote this calculated one. I think I started with the random one, then I did calculated, then I did priority as the last, and priority is the one I stuck with. But next one, move random, is the simple one. 50-50 chance to determine whether to move up or down the fretboard. I think I did the first album on this. Simplest one. You just check off the options. You could choose one or none. You have to choose one at least, but you could choose one or all three. It just adds it to a list as to your choices of how the notes are calculated when it's considering to move the frets up or down. So move priority. This is my currently used one because I like it the best. The system logs the amount of times each fret has been chosen among the eligible frets to consider. Right, because on the lead, alt lead rhythm, you could disable certain frets being enabled. So this tries to balance the amount of times each fret has been chosen to try and have an even amount of playtime the whole fretboard, which I really like. I like having the whole fretboard being played. Like my second album, I use this one. 3-dimensional, you can see the notes being moved along the fretboard nicely. The whole fretboard is great. From the 3rd to the 5th, 12th fret, all that range, it's great. Leads. This is another setting that I gave a hint at earlier. Rhythm ignores this. Does it anyway. So there's 2 different settings for leads. All lead and lead. Clear priorities when all are 0 or not. This check mark when on only works for lead and all lead. When writing note lengths, if this option is on, then once the note length priority has reached 0, it won't reset to a number between min and max right away. It will instead wait for all other note lengths priorities to reach 0 first, as to try to give a balanced amount of playtime for each note length. So these priorities, actually rhythm does not wait for everyone else to reach 0. Rhythm just resets them, I think. But the leads and all leads, let's say you have too many whole notes and it plays them all, it gets rid of all the whole notes before it plays everything else. Then it waits for everything else to hit 0 in terms of the note lengths priorities. And it's weird the settings that you could do with this if you had this on or off. It does make a difference, so I think it's important enough to have it considered as an option. And just another thing I did recently is lead chord chants. The chance that a chord will be played rather than a single note. Without this, it's not single notes only. Leads chord lengths. The required note lengths for the current note and previous note to be in order to consider to be played. So the previous note and the current note being the one that's considered to be a chord, the previous note of that and the current note of that, the lengths of them both have to be a minimum requirement for here. Because I don't want to play a lead song transitioning from an eighth note chord, a single note to an eighth note chord, or eighth note single note to a dotted note chord. I want both of these previous and the current chord transition being a certain note length of whatever, because I need enough time to play that chord. Okay, next up, time tab. You could have 4 different unique time signatures, and you could also have their own tempo for the selected time signatures. Then you have every X measures. This is the amount of measures to wait before changing the time signature and tempo. Sequentiality, sequential randomizer off. I forget what off does. Just does one. I forget. But either way, sequential time signatures played in order, randomized. The first one is the priority, goes back to it as a home plate. Transition. Yes, if you want the time signature to carry on for more than just one measure until the next every X measures, or no, if you just want the time signature change to be only for one measure, then change to the next time signature. I did this because sometimes I like going from 4/4 to 2/4, and just having 2/4 as one measure, and having a period on a sentence. The sentence being 4/4 and 2/4 being the period of the sentence. It's preference. Next tab, we have measure. Lead, rhythm, alt lead, random. This, when concerning to choose a fret and a string, simply choose a randomly within the currently focused frets within the calculated note lengths. So let's say you're focusing on fret 1, 2, 3, 4. You just played string 3, fret 3. The next choice, what are you going to play? It'll be random between that range. It could be all strings 1 through 6 in the frets 1 through 4 range. So the next thing is priority. I wanted more consideration. Let's say I just played string 3, fret 3, and currently focused frets 1 through 4. I only want to play within a 2-string range, or 2 fret range. Or sorry, it is already in the 4 fret range. But I want to play within a 2 fret range, within a 2-string range. Or it could be a further range if there's enough note lengths for me to stretch. If there's let's say a quarter note, then I'll do 3 string jumps, 4 string jumps, if there's enough time. So the priority tries to determine numerous factors, in terms of deciding the fret and the string to play in relation to the current and the previous, or if you're the first. So it considers the string and fret distance, the note lengths, the interval priorities. We haven't even gotten to the interval tab, but that's a whole bunch of priorities for the intervals as well as between notes. There's a lot of detail in place in the description as to exact instructions, but it's a lot of math. It really is a lot of, you set a priority of each string and fret to consider of those eligible in the current key and scale and of the current focused frets range. Okay, next up. Lead, rhythm, alt lead, previous measure. That's another setting. The lead will look at the previously created measure and tries to balance out the string fret by evening out the selection of low, mid, highs, and frets and strings. So the idea of this one is, when I was listening to my second album, 3-Dimensional, I was paying attention to how often the lows and the mids and the highs are juggling between the 3 arrangements. Do I have 3 arrangements of all highs playing at the same time, or is it balanced, each one doing a low, mid, high, or 2 mids and 1 high, vice versa? So the idea of this one was have the leads look at the previous measure, because the way those songs are written, it does the leads arrangement, then it does the rhythm, then it does the all lead. So the leads will only look at the lead. And the leads will look at the lead's previous measures and tries to balance out the selections of low, mids, highs. Whereas the rhythm will look at the current lead measure and try to do the opposite. Is the lead doing a low? Okay, then have the rhythm do a mid or a high. And the alt lead will look at the lead and the rhythm and try to balance it out as well between the three low, mid, highs. So that's what that is. Allow sections is another thing which I have not written a song with, which I'm excited to try writing a song with. I mean, I've written, I think, over 1 million songs with this process. Don't get me wrong, the lift-off functionality. What I mean is in terms of playing and recording. Give me 1 second. Looking for a wire. Hold on. Okay. In terms of recording, I haven't actually recorded the song with many of these features. I've been writing nonstops. So these allow sections such as intro, verse, chorus, bridge, solo, outro. This is a checkbox to enable, disable the sections. Right here. It's important to note that the note length priorities are adjusted by section. For example, chorus focuses more on whole and half notes, whereas solo focuses more on 8th and 16th notes. What that means, it takes your current priorities for the note lengths and it modifies them by the variable multiplier in these current sections. And so it's noticeable too in the sections. Allow subsections. These are more advanced sections such as singular instrument solos or 2 out of 3 instrument solos, lead only, rhythm only, or leads only, or alt lead only. So there's even a lead solo or is only the rhythm. Next up we have repeats. This is the repeating bar measures. Randomly choose the note lengths where the priority. It's like the note lengths where the priority is reduced when chosen. There's a min max reduced by priority for the repeating bar measure, how often they should occur, as well as a toggle for on or off. Sometimes because I don't want to put 0, 0, 0 just to turn it off. I want to toggle it off. And next up we have intervals. And this is fascinating because I do hear differences when this is on or off. I'm thinking about having just like a turn off button here if I don't want it. But basically, this is a priority system similar to the note lengths. The higher the number, the more likely an interval will be chosen. So like min, max, reduced by. The higher the min and max, and the lower the reduced by, the more often. Lead sync button is a checkbox to enable where the synchronization of the intervals between the lead and alt lead will try to be as similar as possible. What that means is the lead will save the priorities for each interval in the measure that the alt leads will reference when making the song, so they'll be as similar as possible. Otherwise, if it's disabled, then the intervals will be randomized between the min and max, and all that to these settings. Next, let's go up to the clear priorities at 0. I don't think I wrote that down. That's another setting where it waits for all priorities to be 0 or not before resetting them all. It does change everything just like the note lengths priorities toggle. All right, the next 3 tabs are for chords. 1, 2, 3, allow or disallow the chords to be placed in the song. The images are the shape, and the frets vary based on the key and scale, currently focused frets. It represents the entire fretboard, these images, just for the shape. This also applies to the leads. So it's leads and alt leads. You have a number of chords to choose from, all different shapes. My first 2 albums are the simpler shapes, and there's more advanced ones. Right now, they're just enabled, disabled by random when you open the SongCreator. That's why you have to save your preferences into files as you go. And the other tabs, drum, piano, bass, they are supported, but I mean, they're implemented, but not fully supported like they work. But there's some features that may not be as in depth on them. I forget offhand, but they are there. You can do these bass, piano, drum. And then the remixer is work in progress, where you open a pre-existing file and then it outputs to a remix version of that file. So that's all for README. we're good here at 56 minutes. Awesome. Thank you for your time. I'll see you next time.